Austin Andrews here with your beacon. Today we take a look at election integrity. As multiple polls put Kamala Harris as a slight trailing candidate to Trump in the election heading into the only debate currently scheduled between the opponents, several high-profile thought leaders are raising the concern that this election could be headed for shenanigans once again. In today's report, we will outline several examples from key states where, through lawfare and strategically placed individuals, the integrity of the election is being fundamentally challenged. Today's first example is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. When he began his run for president, the Democrat Party took him to court in state after state contesting his ability to be an independent on the ballot for president. After RFK Jr. filed paperwork to remove himself from swing states' ballots in an effort to clear the way for Donald Trump to better compete in those states, the state of Michigan has fought him on his removal from the ballot. It only took place after the Supreme Court of the state weighed in on the matter in the last 3 days. Wisconsin is still fighting him on the removal of his name. Michigan's Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson has also issued strange videos stating that the state will come for any local people who choose to not certify the election due to fraud. These are her words.
If someone were to violate the law and not certify the election at the local level, we will come for you. So any local certifier thinking of skirting the law and not certifying the vote, don't even think about it.
The state of Michigan is also in court against the Trump campaign, who are trying to force the state to clean up their voter rolls ahead of the election, as is required by the National Voter Registration Act. The lawsuit claims that out of the 83 counties in Michigan, 53 have more registered voters than adult citizens over the age of 18, and 23 counties have registrations exceeding 90% of the adult citizens over 18. These kinds of voter registration numbers are unheard of. As this litigation follows the courts slowly, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel is also laying the verbal foundation to accuse Republicans of cheating in the election. The reason? Poll workers and a supposed connection to election theft on Trump's behalf in 2020.
I think it's probably his number one strategy, honestly. I really don't see him making an effort to try to convert undecided voters. More than that, what I see is these efforts that are already in place here on the ground in Michigan to try to subvert the election through illegal means and to really try to enlist as many Republicans on the ground as possible, whether those are poll workers, whether those are local clerks, whether those are party activists. I think that what we saw in 2020, it's going to pale in comparison to what we're likely going to see in 2024. And again, it's not my job to decide winners or losers. It's my job to defend the will of the people, whatever that might be. But I can tell you this, if the will of the people here in Michigan is that, they support Kamala Harris as our next president of the United States, it's going to be tough. I don't think anybody should underestimate how hard we're going to have to fight to defend people's votes against an effort by the Trump campaign to subvert democracy here in Michigan and likely in states all across the nation.
So by recruiting Republican poll workers, clerks, and watchers, supposedly Trump is subverting democracy. First, wasn't the public told in 2020 that no matter how many clerks and poll workers were from the Democratic Party, there was zero ability to affect the election? Well, the United States public were told that elections were unstealable in 2020. Now, this attorney general from Michigan seems to be contradicting that belief. But beyond that, recruiting poll workers, watchers, and volunteers and clerks is about having communities involved in their own election process. The interference on Trump, the inference of Trump stealing, is a wild accusation in this context. Another state embroiled in controversy over voter rolls is the swing state of Arizona. The Arizona GOP has filed a lawsuit against Democrat Secretary of State Adrian Fontes after finding between 500,000 and 1.3 million ineligible voters on Arizona voter rolls. America First Legal has announced a lawsuit against all 15 counties in Arizona for refusing to remove illegal immigrants from their voter rolls. Even in the great state of Texas, Governor Greg Abbott has ordered the removal of 1 million ineligible voters, including nearly 500,000 deceased individuals. Eric Weinstein, a physicist, mathematician, and orator, stated on a podcast last week,
I don't know whether Donald Trump will be allowed to become president. There has been a system in place, whether understood explicitly or behind the scenes or implicitly, that says that the purpose of the two American parties is to prune the field of populist candidates so that whatever two candidates exist in a face-off are both acceptable to that world order. So what the two parties would do is that they would run primaries. You'd have populist candidates, and you'd pre-commit the populist candidates to support the candidates who won the primaries. As long as that took place and you had two candidates that were both acceptable to the international order, that is, that they aren't going to rethink NAFTA or NATO or what have you, we called that democracy.
We don't know if Donald Trump is going to be allowed to be president. This thought is chilling. It also goes hand in hand with a statement made by Eric's younger brother, Bret Weinstein, an evolutionary biologist thrust into the political sphere because of Evergreen University's descent into madness 8 years ago. Bret Weinstein stated on a different podcast,
to your point about how much can they cheat, I call that factor, which none of us can put a number on. Maybe they can.
Right.
I call it the cheat factor, right? The cheat margin. And one of the things that I'm trying to convince people of is that it's not hopeless because they can cheat, but it means that you have to succeed at a level that exceeds their capacity to erase it.
The cheat factor. While I do not desire to be seen as conspiracy-laden, the idea that cheating is impossible is itself untrue. Cheating can and has taken place. Now, how much? We don't know. What we do know is that a victory for the United States is not about a single candidate winning this coming November, but about a painstaking process that must occur in our government where the people restore strong boundaries that will encourage integrity in our elections, remove opportunity for elected officials to pressure silence, and promote an American life that is centered on liberty and not safety, individual choice as opposed to collective wisdom, and a future for our children. For now, I'm Austin Andrews, and I'll see you on the next report.